Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Avenue A Live, where we talk acting, we talk networking, and we talk the industry. Happy Friday. Thanks for being here, everyone. I hope everyone's had a good week, or at least a tolerable one. You made it to the end of the week, so congratulations. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hi, Dana. If you are tuning in, feel free to drop a comment and say where you're tuning in from, or just say hi. I love to see who's joining me on these awesome Friday evenings where I get to pick the brains of really creative and wonderful, wise people. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks for joining us. And let's just jump right in. So tonight I have a really exciting guest, and his name is Flobo Boyce. Now Flobo and I actually met through our mutual love and appreciation and use of the StreamYard live streaming platform, which is the platform that I use to run this show. So I also work at StreamYard, and I work in their customer success tech support department. And I run a show every Thursday night with my sister Dana, and we interview different StreamYard users about how they're using StreamYard for their own virtual live content. So Flobo was a guest on our show, and we connected that way, and it turns out that he's also an amazing artist, and he uses StreamYard to do all of his move all of his artistic performance content virtually, because that's the moment that we're living in right now. So I'm just going to introduce Flobo, bring him on, and we're going to have an awesome chat. So Flobo Boyce is a comedian, MC, and DJ, as well as podcast host and digital creator. Originally from Brooklyn, New York, Flobo is currently based in Southern California. When he meets people, he tells them that he's an urban polymath, and what that means is that he likes to work on mastering different things. In his lifetime, he's been known as a writer, video editor, marathon runner, stand-up comedian, wedding officiant, professional wrestling ring announcer, Mesoamerican and Caribbean history buff, brand management enthusiast, social media junkie, and mobile DJ, believe it or not. So without further ado, let's invite Flobo to the stage. Hello, hello.
I can't top that. Between that countdown, that intro, and my intro, the show was already over. That was the best package I have seen in a while. Thank you so much for having me here on Avenue A.
Oh my gosh, thank you for joining me. It's really, I know I was telling you this a bit backstage, but it's really a delight to me whenever I meet someone through StreamYard who I connect with on an artistic level as well. So I feel like you and I definitely did, and I loved hearing your perspective about how you're using the StreamYard platform to live stream and to podcast all of your different sort of performance content.
Sure.
So I'm excited to chat with you tonight.
Can't wait to dive in.
Let's just jump in. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about your digital content creation journey? I mean, You were a live performer, and then you started podcasting, and how did that move into live streaming? And additionally, long question, how did the pandemic maybe shift your perspective on digital content creation?
Well, that last part first, the pandemic did everything. It shifted everything. It was
Yeah.
one of those moments. It almost feels like a comic book event. Everyone remember pre and post. But for me, before I got on stage doing comedy first. So this is back in 2000. I won't forget the day, August 10th, 2014. I got on comedy stage for the first time, and it changed my life. And I said, this is what I want to do. And as far as my digital content for that, yeah, I had written novellas on Amazon Books before, but like all my digital content was just clips of me doing things. Like I would go out to a club, I would either pay or have someone do a little like video camera in the background, and that was the only content I really did. And I will say in 2019, I got into a little digital network that has like a little like web shack where you do your little clips of after shows and they'll put them online, but it was on their platform, their users, their whole network. I was just a talent there. But when the pandemic really hit of March 2020, everything I had dedicated my adult life to. We're talking stand up, we're talking mobile DJing, we're talking about MCing, we're talking about even going and doing performances. We're just off the table, and we're at a crossroads. What do we do? Do we just sit around? Do we write ideas and hope it came back? Because it's only going to be 2 or 3 weeks of quarantine, right? So, but I made a decision early. I said that was like April. I was like, let's just see what this internet thing can do. And I had my little laptop and my old webcam, and it's just a lot of times people say, man, where do I get started? Start what you have. And as the weeks went on, I was like building more shows, more takes on things, more perspectives in the world, and equipment got upgraded. Why that time came too. So, in some ways, the pandemic really was like the starter I need. So I know, crazy question, got a long-winded answer, but I really feel like everything's connected.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you are like the definition of a multi-hyphenate artist. I mean, just
Thanks.
in your bio, I mean, you identify as a polymath, right? Which is someone who likes to master and learn a lot of different things, which I think is so great. And so to sort of tack on to my other question, has the pandemic maybe intensified your love of being multi-hyphenate? I mean, I know for me, just having all this time and sort of having to get creative with the
Yeah.
way I have to be creative, right, has encouraged me to get artistic in different ways. Can you speak
Yeah.
on that for your experience?
I would say with the pandemic came a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
Again, the Tiger King era of pandemic was like a vacation, but then after that was over, I was like, now what are we doing? And so
Right.
I had dabbled in a bunch of things before, but losing track of days and getting up and going, what day is it? What time is it? There was like this very called pajama time until you kind of went back and go, okay, well, now I need structure. So I would say in the middle of April, I started to really think of myself as if I worked for myself. I started to hire myself. If I had a job, I had to get up at a certain time to eat to get to my desk. All right, let's
Right.
just have this desk in my room. And so people say it's my brand, I'm a network. I mean, that's a cool buzzword. The thing we're the same is that now I had to instill the discipline to the things I wanted to do. So I can make a podcast whenever I'm inspired, but I think what separates hobbyists from people who are professionals is that you do the best work even when you're not inspired. When you go, well, it's time, something has to be happen. I'm going to do it even if I'm not feeling it today.
Yes. That's the discipline that you're just talking about, and that's where the progress can be made, right? Because it's one thing to go off of your creative spark, I guess, but the spark isn't always there,
Sure.
especially in the midst of a global catastrophe.
Right. I want to tread lightly here because I know there's a big component here of mental health, right? So
Right.
if you feel like you can't go on, treat your mental injuries like physical injuries. If you tear a muscle, don't run on it. You know what I mean? If you
Right.
cannot get out of bed, don't force yourself to create. But and again, I love metaphors, so if I get too colorful, stop me. So everyone has an energy gas tank, right? Empty to full, and you wake up full. Ideally. And when you're at empty, you're absolutely exhausted. No one expects you to go more than E. You're not a robot. But I do think the things you can work on is that half tank or that third tank where you decide, I'll do it tomorrow. See, when you learn how to push through that half tank days where it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're like, well, it is kind of early, but I did all my things today. Let me try something else, as opposed to being like, let me just veg out. I think those tends to be stronger over time. And it's almost like you work out that muscle. And so when people say, "Oh, you're doing a bunch of things," to you, you're like, "No, I did 3 things today. What? That's only 3. I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yes, I love that metaphor. That sort of makes it a really it's a good way of thinking about it, because I like that you brought up the concept of mental health and knowing when to stop, right? And when to allow yourself time to recover and time to not create. I think as artists, it's really easy to get into this self-pressure mindset. I know I've experienced this before, where it's like, if I'm not making my own art, or if I'm not feeling creative, no one's going to do it for me, which is true, right, to an extent. But it's also important to forgive yourself and allow yourself room to sort of just be, so that you can, like you said, fill that tank and get back to work.
Yeah, it's a problem that kind of disproportionately affects female creators, creators of color, and new Americans or immigrants. This is again this pressure of getting yourself a real job, and so for a lot of us that decide to do something creative, it is seen as like a jump. Like, why would you want to write when you can get yourself a good job? And so if you're writing or if nothing's coming off that day, there's that pressure like, nah, I'm just wasting time. I shouldn't be slaving in a cave. Oh no. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And no one could quite understand what you do, especially if you are from a working class neighborhood or if no one is a creative in your network. No one could understand of, hey, I wrote my main character into a corner, or my podcast guest bailed 20 minutes before showtime. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's important to surround yourself with some creatives in there and understand that your problems, because the path you do choose to do, will be unique. And you may not have everyone to understand what you do.
Yeah, amen to that. And you mentioned networking. So a big aspect of this platform, Avenue A, is networking and how the concept of networking affects our careers as artists. What does networking mean to you, and has your perspective on what networking is changed over the years, and if it has, how?
Yeah, a lot of ways. I come from a marketing background. My corporate path was content strategy. Yeah, like I got myself a good job, right, Ma? Right?
Yeah.
It was at conferences that learned how to gamify things, how to what times are best to post on which social media network. And so networking, I used to dread because we know it was phony. We would go to a bar, and I wasn't even a big drink. Well, I will say I wasn't I know what a big drinker is, but I wasn't one who used to drink during company time. I would go to these bars, you have a cocktail, you swirl it around, a couple business cards, and what happens at the end of the night? Stack of business cards. Hey, John, nice to meet you. Hey, Mary, nice to meet you. And you're like, am I networking? I have no idea, because then when someone hits me up, hey, I was at that conference in Toronto 6 months ago, you go, okay.
Let me look at my stack of business cards for the name that matches.
It has been that way for generations. Have a business card. And so I think now, I'm not sure if it's from my experience, if it's from a creative side of it, or it's just the way the world is changing. We're just looking for personality. I think before I hit a website and I have a new product, I hit the About Me page first. What's this company about? What they stand for, who they donate to, that sort of thing. So for creatives also, network is when you have your own portfolio of stuff. It has to be a living one, and you can make things for yourself. That's great. But if you want to grow, if you want to make money off of it, if you want to have someone to buy into it, have a place where it exists. And when you meet someone, say, here's the stuff I'm working on. So they can actually go and research you. Right? Because we research everything now. My friends don't even go to a restaurant unless they have a Yelp page, right? So once you control your own narrative, put your content on some corner, don't care about the views now. But when someone says, hey, kid, what do you got? You can go, well, Avenue A Live is where the best creators ever come and talk with Kelsey.
Yes. And that's the truth right there.
Yeah.
So how do you manage... do you manage all of your own social media presence, all of your own website stuff? How do you manage I know you have multiple different live shows about different things. How do you keep it all organized and keep yourself sort of up to date virtually?
Sure. This is for the people that there are the one-stop shops. You'll never compete with social media teams. Don't even try. And it's hard to kick yourself. And so I can tell you right now, if I had another person, I'll be having a dedicated social media person, because it takes a lot to interact with other people to make sure you're a real person and all that kind of stuff. But yes, I use a calendar, straight Google Cal to know what days that I'm doing things. It's a rhythm for me. Your audience probably won't know Thursdays as social media Facebook post day, but to you it might, as long as it's consistent. If you can only fit one show a month, people will come to that. Just don't give me a daily show to take a month off, that sort of thing. I use that. My art design, I usually use Canva or outsource it to Fiverr, or I have a couple artist friends who do my t-shirt designs, because for that I want more hands-on control. Of course, I'm willing to pay for that more because people will be wearing it, right? But if I want like a background removed, I'll throw someone some cash on Fiverr. Understand it's a business in that way, where you got to have some working capital for advertising, for social media, for expenses. If you can only afford $20 a month, that's great. If you can only afford $100 a month, that's great. Just understand that component, it's going to cost you something, just to make sure you're not pulling your hair out to say, oh, I have to do this design thing and post and do that. And also, if you can, I always take 2 hours, well, I say a day, but 2 hours, and say I'm doing nothing but admin stuff. And that is anything that's for your creative endeavors. That's not creative. That is email new people. That is checking out new products. That's testing things. Gosh. Lab time, research and development.
Okay, that really struck a chord with me. I think that is super key, and I think it's key for a lot of creatives specifically, because I know with myself, that's what I struggle with, is the admin side of it. Like when the time comes for the show and everything's all done, like that's a breeze for me. This is my favorite part, right? Like showing up, you know, getting dressed for it, logging on. But there's so many other aspects, obviously, and I know you know this because you run multiple different shows. But it really is the dedicated admin time, I think, is so smart. Because if you don't dedicate certain hours, it can easily get away from you.
Yeah, I think that the worst feeling for me is when you have a guest like, I'm in the show. You're like, oh yeah, we're doing a show right now. That's happened exactly once. I was like, I cannot let that happen. I can't let that happen.
Never again. So for the audience members who don't know you, Flobo, can you tell us how many shows you do and how many times you're actually going live every week?
Do I count the shows I'm helping out my friends on their networks, or my stuff too, or just my stuff?
Let's do just your stuff first, and then tell us what else you're doing too.
Okay, yeah, sure. So on Monday nights, I have a late night talk show, Jimmy Kimmel show called What's Up Flobo After Hours. That's Monday. I have one that's on hiatus now called Commander's Log. That's Star Trek Discovery recap. The season's over. That's Thursdays at 6 Pacific. Thursdays at 1, I do a wrestling recap for NXT and NXT UK. I have one ad hoc where I review original Netflix properties called Flobo Saw on Netflix. 1, 2, 3, that's 4. The flagship podcast is New Amsterdam Radio. That's where I sit down, much like Avenue A, and chat with creatives and what's going on in the world. My first ever vlog, the first thing I opened up my laptop in the corner of my bedroom with no gear, called What's Up Flobo Classic. That's where I just ramble and a vlog of what's going on. Those are the core 6. But then other than that, I started the Flopitos Book Club. That's every month I do a book review. And then I have a spinoff of the Netflix show where I talk about comedy specials as a comedian called Global Salt on Netflix. The comedy specials, that's Patreon exclusive. So that's 8. And then I have a couple more to help my friends out on.
Oh my gosh. So 2 questions. Do you take days off, first of all? And second of all, how do you keep it all straight in your brain? Is it literally just Google Calendar, you're putting everything in there? Because I get overwhelmed with one show.
Sure. You know what? Google Calendar is the main tool for me as far as scheduling. If you do it long enough, it becomes it's Saturday. What's going on today? As you take the entrepreneurial spirit, which sounds so holier than that, I apologize. But you work every day in that way. I mean, sometimes work can be as small as a half an hour of answering emails. I'd probably like to just check on it. The way I have it set up, typically Fridays I keep open for other guest shows or appearances. Like this show's a Friday. Oh, nice. I'll say, okay, cool. Can someone wants to? Well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, I'm free. I'm doing nothing at all. Yes. And Tuesday is my admin day. So Tuesdays are days if I have an overrun of shows, if I want to work on things, it's Tuesday. Friday's really more like it's an open office hours type deal. But yeah, I'll get up on a Wednesday. I'm like, I'm missing something. Oh yeah, I didn't post the clip to my podcast because it's become routine.
Yeah. No, I definitely know what you mean. I'm getting to that point too where I might not know exactly what I haven't done, but I'm like, I feel it. I know there's something. I just have to channel it for a moment. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but something that I have personally been struggling with as of late in this continued pandemic existence is finding that motivation to keep creating.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit more about how you've been dealing with that? And maybe can you offer some tips to young artists who are really trying to stay creative during this time where it's like hard to even see a week ahead of you?
Right. Well, I have one tip and an anecdote.
Great.
I'll do the tip first. I like to have what I call like the okay. You know, on social media, everyone wants to be a CEO. You know, I'm a CEO of this. I'm a CEO of my 20 Instagram follower. You know, I used to tease people and say, if you're the CEO and you truly believe that, who are your board of trustees? Because every CEO has to answer to a board of trustees of increasing or varying difficulty and provide them some kind of proof that you're doing something better for the company. So I do. There's people that are big fans of mine, like my mom. My mom loves everything. Hey, boy, you can do it. I got people that I don't consider haters, but those are the ones that are like, I'm playing devil's advocate, but you play devil's advocate all the time. But I'm playing devil's advocate.
Right.
So when I have a new concept, if I'm looking for inspiration, I have an idea for something. I got like this my newest show, the book club. Hey, I don't read books. It's my resolution to read more books. Do you think I should do a book club video? Mom was like, of course, baby. And the guy who was a hater was like, yeah, but how many views you're gonna get? Don't care about views, but thank you for your input. And I just decided to do it. And that keeps you accountable until you understand that you are doing something with a purpose. But personally, for me, my entire life I was heavy. When I was 24 years old, I was 375 pounds. And so I decided one day, and I celebrate every February 26th, I celebrate gym day. Was the day I went to the gym and decided to work on myself.
Wow.
And people always ask, hey, how'd you lose the weight? What'd you do? And you can't be like, eat less, work out more. That's dumb. But how'd you lose the weight? It's usually, the one thing I say is, hardened criminals who do the most heinous crimes are in jail get 1 hour of exercise a day. What is my excuse? I'm a good guy. I should do an hour and 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So even if it was walk around the block or bowling to make up a sweat or jumping jacks, that's why I realized you carve out a slice for yourself every day. If you have a full-time job, if you work 9 hours a day and you have one child, I think the calculation is you have about 90 minutes a day of downtime, which isn't a lot at all. That's after showering, after sleeping, 90 minutes a day of downtime. Give yourself 30. Put a 35-minute clock and write that first page, research a new product, try something else. And if it flops, if you wrote in your notebook, you never look at it again, you know you gave yourself 35 minutes out of 24 hours to feel creative. And then hopefully the next day gets to be more and more and more. But I know I don't want to come off as a guy who's like, do this, it's great. It's hard for everyone. But those are the two things I think of when I go forward.
Yeah, it sounds like it's that concept of being really intentional that you foster in your life, like being intentional about, okay, 2 hours of admin on this day, that's what I'm going to do, and the hour at least of exercise, and there's certain things that you are very intentional about, and that definitely resonates with me. I think that's fantastic, because we can't get anywhere unless we set an intention to like move forward.
Momentum is a key too. A lot when we start, we go, man, no one's watching my videos, no one's sharing my stuff, no one's buying my artisan handbags. I don't know, right. but if you're going and you're in the post, and people are buying it, tell them, go, oh, I see you. Hey, can I be on your show? Can I do this? And you'll notice momentum kind of build momentum.
Yeah. Yes. And even, I found with myself. Personally, it's hard to deal with certain moods you have, right? Like how mood affects your motivation or your everything, really. Mm-hmm. And specifically when it comes to taking time for fitness personally. That's been something that I have been working on a lot during the pandemic. Working a 9-to-5 job where I'm sitting down, it became a necessity for me. But sometimes at the end of the day, you just want to go from your chair to your bed. But I have found that even just consistency with saying, okay, I'll just go outside for a little walk. I'll just get some air, and just taking a little bit of time at least to stay consistent, I think. It doesn't have to be like hours a day if you don't have the hours, that day. True. Or you don't, whatever it might be. But I think going back to that sense of intentionality is really where it's at.
Yeah, yeah. It's different for a lot of work from home people. I mean, for those
Yeah.
in that category, I'll say academic hour, work 50, walk 10, or stretch 10. But
Yeah.
if you're on your feet working in a warehouse where you have like timed breaks or forced breaks, because so many of us are on that schedule. Now it's time to go to
Right.
break. Try what you can, try what you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Different things work for different people. Absolutely. Okay, so final question before we wrap up this delightful
It's
interview.
over?
Almost. Can you believe it? Time truly flies.
I
Time
love
truly
Avenue A,
flies.
man. This is great.
Avenue A loves you, Flobo. Thanks for joining us. I mean, this is just a delight. Oh, we have so many comments. Let's take a break to say hi to the comments, people.
Hey, what's up, comment people?
We have Dana, of course, my lovely producer. Hi, Dana.
Hey.
We have MBW. Thanks for tuning in.
What?
Let's see. Oh, CJ. CJ, thank you for tuning in. CJ is a longtime viewer of Avenue A. It can be really tough to push through these days. The just do factor. Step one is the hardest. Then hopefully you gain some momentum.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what we were talking about. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so final question before we wrap this up. Obviously, I've mentioned it many times, we're all living through this moment where we're longing for, days past of live performance. We've made some virtual gains and things have happened, but I definitely miss live performance. So I'm wondering, what do you see as the future of live performance?
I do think on the local level, it's going to come back. I'm not sure when. Everyone's looking at 2022. That's enough to use. I don't know if I said it right. Just for local live performances. I do think that there's going to be the mid category of performers, the ones that have a little bit of a following but aren't necessarily national headliners in that way, will have a lot more virtual events. Granted, the gear will be better, but it'll be a lot cheaper for a community college in Illinois to set up a dedicated connection to a band than to fly them in. That I don't think that's going to go away. So you're going to have this hybrid thing where almost like a rite of passage, almost like Guitar Hero. You're going to be your bass at one level, you're going to be at a virtual stream one level, then basically go. But it's not going to go away. I think, especially with comedy clubs, that's where I come from. Comedy clubs are not necessarily the cleanest areas because they have a product of packing it in there to create the great acoustics of laughter. So they may be the longest ones to come back, or they may be more open area, or maybe there might be innovations in those acoustics, so they can be separated and do that. But as far as like touring bands, I don't think the days of hopping in a minivan and doing tours for a hot dog and a handshake, I think those are pretty much going to be at their end.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that the concept of hybrid events is something that's coming up a lot, and I think it's both sort of strange to conceptualize sort of combining the virtual world that we know now with the exclusively live world pretty much that we knew of days past. But I do think that it raises an exciting concept of greater accessibility, right? Like you no longer necessarily have to be in the place where something's happening. And that's really exciting for people who are not able to, access different like theaters and productions. And like if we're talking about New York theater and Broadway, like I would love to see Broadway move virtual as well, like a hybrid type of thing, because that would just open up the gates to viewership from people who are all over the world, essentially, which I think is so beautiful. And that's what theater and live performance is supposed to do, is connect us.
You hit the nail on the head. There was a time where whatever everything is, if it's podcasting or breakdancing or spray paint can, whatever. There was a time where you're like, I'm at this level, but this person I look up to is over there. But then when that was erased, the most famous people in your segment were still doing Instagram lives and streaming live and using the same tools that you were using. Yeah. Which to the point where if you have the right light, no one could tell the difference whether or not you are famous or top tier or level. Yeah, practice, get your work up, but at least for a short while before everyone kind of figured out how to separate people again. But it felt like it was more accessible than ever. And I've had people that I didn't think would even see my stuff have sent to DMs and go, "Hey, look, don't take much of this, but I like what you're doing." Which, if I was trying to do it in local clubs here in Los Angeles, probably wouldn't have been seen for years.
Yeah. Ooh, ain't that the truth? It's exciting. I like that you brought that up, that the beginning of the pandemic specifically, I feel like really set a level playing field, even for like the most famous of famous people, because we were all sitting on our couch, right? And we all knew exactly where everyone was, and we were all resorting to social media, and like none of us had really figured out how to go live yet. So that was really like an interesting moment of sort of connection virtually, I think. And it's changed over the months of the pandemic, I think, as people have sort of found their own groove and gained individuality with their live content, right? Like we've all tried to differentiate ourselves, I guess, in that way. But yeah, I think there is something to be said for connection even in the virtual age, and especially as we move back into live performance. Hopefully it can be, like you said, that virtual hybrid. Yeah. Can't wait. Bring it on. Well, Flobo, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for taking the time. I always get so excited to meet people through StreamYard and other live stream content creators. And it's just so great that you're both a live content creator and also a performer. So I felt like your insight tonight was so wonderful. So thank you for sharing that and taking the time. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's kind of funny how we got bounded by a duck with a pair of headphones, but it was so cool. I use it every day.
So cool. So cool. So for anyone watching, check out Flobo on Instagram at Flobo Boyce, and then your website is flobito.com. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So find Flobo, connect with him and all of his live shows, the content for days.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Flobo, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, y'all, that concludes another episode of Avenue A, where we talk acting, we talk networking, we talk industry. I feel so invigorated after that chat, so I hope you do too. Thank you so much for those of you who tuned in and for those of you who made it all the way to the end. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate that you want to share a bit of your Friday night with me and with my weekly special guest that I have the honor of having on every week. So thanks again. I appreciate you, full of love. And we'll be back next week with another episode. So have a great weekend and happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Bye.